The doctor said that it was probably IBS, and there is nothing that they can do for me. I distinctly remember the first gluten-free flour blend that I bought. It was like eating crusty sand. Those brownies were the first gluten-free brownies that actually tasted good. It was a glimmer of hope that maybe this gluten and dairy-free thing wasn't so bad after all. All good stories start at the beginning. The real beginning of Dolled Up Desserts starts in 2013, 3 years before Dolled Up Desserts was even a sparkle in my eye. I was in the first year of university, and I was granted the privilege of being a student at the McMaster Bachelor of Health Sciences program, class of 2016. This program is known to the outside world as the penultimate medical program in the country. With only 160 students accepted in my year, not only did you have to have a 90% average in high school, but you needed to crack the code to this outlandish supplemental application that asks you to talk about your problem-solving skills, vision, and your own critical ideas. It goes without saying, I was incredibly lucky to be there. At the time, I had blinders on, with my eyes set on the path towards becoming a pediatrician, which later turned into becoming a psychiatrist, but that's another story. Like most parents, teachers, or guidance counselors, all of my adult mentors reinforced the security of being a physician, a lawyer, or another steady, low-risk, high-compensation career, right? Why grapple with the anxiety associated with the unknown when there are respectable, consistent careers that you can just fall into? And not to shit on those careers, of course. There is incredible opportunity for adventure within each of them. However, as I am now the alumni that is called on to shake up the reality of BHSC students, there is definitely pressure to ease the anxiety of parents of high-achieving children to pursue one of these defined professions. As an entrepreneur, I find it almost disease-like that parents, teachers, and adult influences quash creativity and curiosity by forcing kids to know what they want to be when they grow up at such an early age. It stifles a child's potential skills and talents in return for reduced adult anxiety. But again, it's another conversation for another day. Needless to say, the pressure in the BHSC program was intense. Combine it with my own personal pressure to continue get 90s in my university courses, plus the added challenge of living away from home, it truly was the perfect storm for chronic health issues to take root. Partway through my first year, I stopped being able to digest food. Without going into too much gruesome detail, I had no appetite, I was incredibly bloated, gassy, fatigued, I endured stabbing pain in my abdomen basically every night, and you can probably fill in the rest of the details or symptoms. It was the first time in my life that I was experiencing such consistent and severe health issues. As a teenager, I had some gut health concerns. I suffered from different stomach flus each year of high school, and whenever I ate dairy or I was too stressed out from schoolwork, I would have some, not so nice times in the bathroom, but it was never a 24/7 concern. I went to go see the campus physician and got some tests done. Maybe I just had another stomach bug that wouldn't go away. Unfortunately, all the tests came back negative, and there was no indication of celiac disease. The doctor said that it was probably IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome, and there is nothing that they can do for me. This moment was a massive turning point in my life. It was the first time that a trip to the doctors was disheartening, when there was no answer, no relief, no cure, no treatment plan to follow. Western medicine had failed me. I already knew from previous stomach bugs and visits to the hospital that if I was not bleeding out my butt, my gut issues were not an immediate concern. But this moment of being told that it was IBS and that there was nothing left for them to do left me feeling hopeless. It also felt so wrong. As someone who likes to make changes as soon as feedback is given, I went home and researched my new diagnosis. Of course, I came across the classic FODMAP diet recommendation, but there was also the interesting recommendation to go and seek out the help of a naturopath. At the time, I still believed that Western medicine was the gold standard for healthcare. I was in pre-med after all, I wanted to be a doctor. But given how much pain I was in, I decided being open to the naturopath's opinion might provide me at least a little bit of pain relief. So I did a sensitivity IgG test with that first naturopath, and the foods that came back positive were alarming. All foods I ate often, all foods that made me sick, all of them were on there. Gluten, wheat, barley, dairy, yogurt, eggs, chickpeas, black beans, chicken, oranges, tomatoes, eggplant, tuna, sesame, peanuts. The list was expansive. She suggested that I stop eating all those foods for a while, prescribed some homeopathic remedies, and sent me on my way. She was the first of many naturopaths that I've consulted on my journey towards better gut health. But she gave me something that no Western doctor has ever been able to give me, and that is still to this date the path towards a solution to my chronic health issues. Relief, hope. This moment was pivotal, as it was the seed that blossomed into the rejection of my career in medicine, rejection of seeing or trusting allopathic physicians in general for chronic health issues, and opening my mind to the many facets of health and well-being. Although I didn't fully cut out all the foods that were positive on this test, I did cut out the big allergen culprits: gluten, eggs, dairy, well, sorta. I couldn't really stop eating cheese and Greek yogurt at the time. I still ate meat. That summer, I felt better, but not perfect. It was the summer of 2013 that I started baking gluten, dairy, and egg-free for the first time. Baking is an integral part of my spirit. Growing up, I never had Oreos, Chips Ahoy, or even enjoyed cookies from a bakery. My mother, Karen, baked everything that my younger sister and I enjoyed. And did she ever sharpen our sweet tooth? Of course, baking with Mama became a weekly activity where we learned how to make basic chocolate chip oatmeal cookies, butter tarts with frozen tender flake shells, brownies from the back of the baker's chocolate box, or, as Alexandra, my younger sister, always wanted, vanilla sprinkle cookies. Karen wasn't the only baker that influenced my love of sweets. I grew up in a family with matriarchs that were superb bakers. There was never a time at my baka's house, which is Croatian for grandmother, that there wasn't a ginormous plate, and I mean ginormous plate, of apple or cheese strudel and 5 types of traditional cookies waiting for Alexandra and I to overeat. If we were lucky, she would also make krafne, which is donuts with rose hip jam. All of my aunts were also incredible bakers. There was never a Paletto holiday party where you didn't leave with a full takeout box of classic Croatian desserts for the week ahead. It would be looked down on, almost scornful, if there wasn't an entire buffet spread of desserts for the family members at a party. So needless to say, I grew up loving the process of baking, and then sharing those baked goods to the delight of my family. My time away at McMaster, however, solidified that love of baking. I found peace and joy while baking in residence. I'd bake a loaf of chocolate chip banana bread or a new version of a chocolate chip cookie. All of my baked goods had chocolate in them, mind you, and the smell would just waft from the residence hall. My baked goods gave me something to look forward to as a snack while I'm dozing in lecture, or something to reward myself after hours of homework. But now, with the challenge of cutting out gluten, dairy, and eggs, I had to learn how to bake again. I didn't want to stop baking. Baking provided me with mental solace beyond just eating something delicious. Plus, all the baked goods that I could buy at the store were absolute garbage. As my mom Karen always said, baking it yourself is always better and healthier. So I started my journey of learning to bake gluten-free and vegan. I distinctly remember the first gluten-free flour blend that I bought. Robin Hood's gluten-free flour blend. And I made shortbread cookies. I threw them out as soon as they came out of the oven. I couldn't even pick them off of the damn tray because they were just turning into a dust. And their taste, oh my gosh, gritty, bland, ricey, totally unpalatable. Sugar could not save it. It was like eating crusty sand. And I remember crying as I threw them out because all of my hard efforts and money spent went into something that was disgusting. Baking gluten-free felt hopeless, like a massive sacrifice. Plus, these terrible treats were not something that I would want to share with any friends or family. Who would want to eat this shit when they could eat something with butter and wheat? Being gluten, dairy, and egg-free was isolating. And baking it at home was a giant reinforcement of how horrific that sacrifice is. But being gluten and dairy-free did make me feel better. So I had to stick to it, and I proceeded to just eat less baked goods and overall just baked less. My mom's friend Lily shared the first half-decent gluten and dairy-free recipe with me in the summer of 2013. It was a recipe for brownies with almond flour and coconut oil. all new ingredients to me at the time, but she swore by it as the best brownies she's ever had. I tried it out, and she wasn't wrong. Those brownies were the first gluten-free brownies that actually tasted good. Although they did contain eggs and did make me feel sick after, it was a glimmer of hope that maybe this gluten and dairy-free thing wasn't so bad after all. For the first recipe of my reflection capsule, I want to share that brownie recipe with you, with some modifications for it also being egg-free and thus vegan. A quick, accessible, low-cost brownie recipe for the absolute beginner baker with no prior baking skills. You can make this and feel proud of sharing it with friends and family. I hope it provides you with the confidence to get baking more inclusive dessert. Until next time, Katerina.